We cut to a scene of a broken vase lying on the floor. Someone off-screen says, "Phew, this room is a mess." The young master's special constitution caused trouble again, one of the maids said. Another says she's scared to death, not knowing when his mana might explode again. Another one says maybe it's because he is sick, but his temper seems to grow more sensitive by the day. Hans says, "What are they saying right now?" He says he'll go and give them a piece of his mind right away. Issac holds him back, saying, "That's enough, Hans." He says with a gloomy look of guilt, "They aren't wrong." Issac tells Hans that he should stop coming to see him as well. Hans then replied, "No, young master." Hans continues, "I still care about you, young master. Once it passes, it won't be a big deal," Hans says. Hans still remains optimistic. He says, "Isn't that just how life is?" Issac says and likes that. Hans, who used to speak with such a bright smile, eventually, he lost his life in one of Issac's mana explosions from his past life. We see a flashback of Vlad laying on the ground in sorrow, with a puddle of blood beside him. He says that those who cared for me died because of that very heart itself. Issac thinks to himself, "No, I killed them," he tells himself in his head. He continues in his element. "So if this situation is reality, what I must do?" Issac calls out to Hans. Hans' response was immediate, "Yes, young master." Hans looks happy to be called by Issac. Issac then tells Hans to get out. Issac continues to say, "Disappear from my sight right now." Issac punches the window. He cautions that being close to him will only put them in greater danger. We see Hans leaving as he says, "Still, please, don't try to shoulder everything alone." Hans looks back one last time before he exits the room, saying it's okay to trust us sometimes, young master. Issac says, "I have no memory of him saying this." Issac thinks to himself, "Did he say that in my dream? Because I wanted to hear it so much." Issac slaps himself, thinking it's a dream but it's not. Issac says the slap hurts. He asks himself, "Is this reality?" He asks, "Then how did I die before?" He says to himself, "Right, it does not matter if it's reality or a dream." He says to himself that he must prevent himself from having another mana explosion ever again. In the past, there was someone who suffered a special constitution, just like Issac's. His name was Zeke von Goth, and he reached a realm that no human had ever touched before. He was Issac's great-grandfather, living underground, where he learned about it from the ancestral records. His father had passed them down to him. After years of meticulous study, he found a way to overcome his unique constitution. We then see the younger Issac, with the same notes he had in his past life. He then says, "This is the very rune stone." We see Issac looking down at the same rune stone from his past life, using the same tools and notes as before. Issac says that this singular pattern was born from my research, and I carved it into a mana stone, which creates a rune stone. My hands used to shake with old age, but now it's not so hard. We see Issac holding up the stone next to himself. He says to prevent the side effects of his special constitution. Akka, the mana explosion, the vessel that holds the mana, must withstand the endlessly circulating mana. However, Issac's mana flows so fast and violently that the vessel cannot withstand it. A normal person would die the moment it shattered, but peculiarly, his mana vessel restored itself each time it exploded as if nothing had happened. He says that's why he could explode 10 or 20 times without him dying. He says that a continued impact is applied to the damaged area. He continues to draw, mapping out the way the mana is dispersed, which leads to a new pathway opening. We then see the full drawing with the rune stone at its very center. He continues, "That's how the shock of violent mana is dispersed." He says, but the success rate is low. He only barely succeeded right before he died in his past life. He thinks to himself that the small flame he made before he died was proof of his success. Issac thinks to himself, "It will work this time." We then see him attempt to summon a fireball. The flame burst forth with immense power and energy. We get a close-up on our MC's face. He looks surprised, also a tiny bit worried. Such power, he says. He feels a mana burst coming. He managed to contain the mana burst. He looks up at the strong flames. He holds the rune next to the flickering flames. Issac thinks in his mind, I knew it. The pathways have increased to 3. We then see our MC holding the rune in his left hand and making a huge fire form from his other. He thinks to himself, each one has different properties and size. He is now able to manifest 3 magical spells simultaneously. He clenched his fist, saying, no, wait, this is not my goal. He says to himself, my goal is to prevent any mana explosions from happening at all. For that, only 3 pathways are not enough for him. We then see him clutching the rune in his hand. Issac says to himself that he needs to use more magic, and more often, to increase the number of pathways he has, so that he can minimize the burden placed on his mana vessels. He continues to say so until then. He cannot let anyone stay by his side. We see him holding the stone once more, before he says to himself firmly, no one. We stood before the mansion, it's now night. We then heard Hans, it's dinner time, young master. We see Hans carrying a plate of food for Issac. While smiling, he is clearly happy with his job. Hans brings the food, Issac says, it's the wheat bread you like. Issac sits quietly for a moment before saying, I told you to get lost. We then see Hans trying to feed Issac, saying, come on, you haven't been eating much lately. Issac then thinks to himself, he doesn't listen to a thing I say. He continues thinking, saying, and what's with that overly sweet tone and gaze? We then see Hans attempting to feed Issac again. Issac then asks Hans, how old am I? Hans then replies, you are 12 years old, young master. Issac thinks to himself, I guess I'm at an age where acting like a child is considered normal. We then see that Issac has taken the fork from Hans and is eating alone now. Issac thinks to himself, Nanny must have made this bread. It's been a long time since I tasted it. He then says to Hans, I have not seen Nanny today. Where is she? Hans replied, well, her son Hinder has pneumonia. Issac stops eating. At the news saying so, she went back home. He continues to say that a nanny leaves her post because of her own child. In any other family, she would not dare to dream of such luxury. He then says, what a well-run household. Issac glances to the side, asking if Hinder is the only one suffering from pneumonia. Has anyone caught it? All of the children in the Annis village have replied. We see Hans facing Issac as the talk, and Issac says, I see. Issac thinks to himself. He remembers the incident that happened around this time. The Black Goose village was beset by a devastating outbreak of mass pneumonia. We see Thene beside her son's bed as he dies. Issac thinks to himself that the nanny has lost her son in this incident and had to leave with a great sense of loss until the day she died. We see the nanny dying, saying, I'm glad, young master, that I am leaving first this time. We then see a flashback of Issac on his knees next to the nanny, who is dying, and Issac thinks, I don't want her to go through that again. Issac thinks to himself. He thought the cause of the pneumonia revealed later was definitely. Issac abruptly calls Hans, which startled him a bit. Issac asks, what monsters were subdued there recently?